this is how I say hello in Yosemite. I have to start out by saying how grateful I am to be asked to speak to you, and to speak to you on this day. But I have to admit to you that growing up as I did in Detroit, Michigan, Detroit is a long way from California. Detroit is a long way from Port Chicago. And in my childhood, I never heard about what happened here on July 17, 1944. My father served in Berlin right after World War II. My father served in Vietnam. My father served in Korea. And whenever he got together with his friends, and I saw the look in his eyes and the look in their eyes, and the look seemed to say, no one can understand the pain that we have felt. No one can understand the things that we have seen. No one should see the things that we have seen. And I realized, how can I connect with these men who saw their friends shot, killed, blown apart? When you have experiences like that, and no one that you know back home has had those experiences, it is a difficult story to tell, because you have lived that story that no one should have to live. My father has passed on. And I tell the story of the Buffalo Soldiers who served in Yosemite and Sequoia. I tell that story precisely because of my father. Because I do not want the memory of my father to die. And I don't want the memory of any soldier, black, white, green, purple, whatever the color is. No soldier who has wore the uniform of the United States should ever be forgotten, because if they pay that ultimate price of losing their blood for this country, they deserve to be remembered. And there is no greater honor than remembrance. But I tell you right now, it's a wonderful thing for someone to say thank you. So, I am here. I am here to say to those men, all of the men who served here, who are survivors, thank you for your duty. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for living the next day through what you experienced, and that which is incommunicable. How can you state, how can you put into words the language of the pain and the suffering that you experienced? How can you soften those memories that are so hard? And I am here to say to you that there is peace in this world that can come to those who have suffered. And the beginning of that peace is understanding and forgiveness and acceptance. And so I'm honored to be here on this day. I am honored to feel this wind blowing against me, because that wind is the same wind that blew in 1944. And the memory of those men is right here today in the eyes and the minds and the hearts of the survivors, and in their children and in their friends and in their family and in all those who have the strength to recognize that we must remember the past, that there's nothing more important than to say to those who came before us, thank you for your duty, thank you for your service. Without you, we would not be who we are today. No one ever said that to my father. My father never heard that simple gesture of thank you. And he died embittered. But he's not embittered now, because he's in a place where there's not that kind of hostility. You who were survivors of that know the hostility that I'm referring to. You recognize, as the Buffalo Soldiers recognize, as the Montford Point Marines recognize, as the Golden 13 recognize, as the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts recognize, as all who came before, you recognize that there is work to be done, but the work to be done is not always appreciated. And so when there's a moment, an opportunity to say thank you, someone should always say thank you. And again, thank you. You can't say thank you too many times. I'm going to repeat this. You can't say thank you too many times to those who have never or rarely heard that expression. You can't say it too many times. And that's why I said it more than once or twice, because they didn't hear it. in 1944, or 45, or 46, or 47, or 48, or 49, need I go on? But they're hearing it today. And they are not alone, because the men who served with them are right here, and I can feel them blowing against me, against my back. And they're just saying, no, tell them. Go on. Don't stop just with that. Keep talking. Keep talking. And I can feel them, and I can feel my father right here. He's saying too, hey, you don't forget about my friends too. You talk about them as well, because if they remember everything that happened, and that's what's powerful about today, because today is a nativity. Today is a birth. A new park is coming into being. And what that means is we are all saying collectively. So I could go on and on about the sadness of what happened, but I'd rather just kind of enjoy the joy of what's happening right now. Because when I look out into this audience, I see people from so many different backgrounds. I see people who are older, but still young. I see people that are very young, but quite old in spirit. And I see everything in between, but what I'm seeing more than anything are people together united in a common purpose. And that common purpose is, regardless of the color of one's skin, the color of one's spiritual belief, that we are all essentially the same, and we are all Americans. And that's what today is all about. Honoring what it means to be an American, honoring the meaning of one's own country, and the memory of those who died wearing the uniform of the U.S. military, of the Navy, of the Coast Guard. Whatever they were wearing, they were representing all of us. And so we need, in their passing, to represent them. It should be illegal to not know what happened on July 17th, 1944. If you're in Miami, Florida, and you get stopped on July 17th, 1944, and they just pull you over because you're speeding, and they say to you, the state police, excuse me, do you know what today is? I'm sorry, officer, I have no idea what today is. Do you know what happened on July 17th, 1944? No, I have no idea. I'm going to have to give you a ticket for that. There is no excuse in this world for not knowing history. And that was a very important event, so I'm going to give you a ticket. And then the officer explains what happened. He says, you ever heard about that? No, I haven't. I'm going to give you another citation. No excuse for it. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. But in order to live in that world, we have to create it. We have to create a world where we recognize the importance and the contributions of everybody. All of us. Because behind every soldier in Iraq, in Kuwait, there's 100 or 1,000 people that are never celebrated, that you never hear about, and they're there. They were there in the background, and they built the gun that soldier is carrying. They worked in the ship that's keeping that sailor above the water. They built the airplane that the pilot is flying in. All of those people are never talked about. They're never discussed. But those people are important as well, and we need to recognize their contributions. We need to recognize all contributions, otherwise we forget all contributions. We are in this together, or we go down one by one. And I'd rather be in this together. So are you in it with me? Because what I'm asking you to do something that is hard. To remember the suffering and the pain of the past is difficult. But I think we owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to those who came before us to remember their pain. I got up this morning and I was thinking, oh, this was the last morning that those sailors ever saw. July 17th, that morning, that sunrise. They never would see another sunrise. And it made me look out today and feel that wind blowing against me, thinking that was the last thing that they felt on this day. And the light that they were seeing was the last light that they saw. Those things that we take for granted, holding a loved one's hand in your hand, holding a child on your lap, getting a hug from your mom or your dad, the last day that that could have happened was the morning of July 17th, 1944. So I figure I owe it to them to remember. I owe it to them to say thank you. And again, you can't say thank you too many times to those who have went through what they went through. So again, thank you. You know, I don't know what to say with it the wind is not already saying. The wind's already telling me, you've said enough. You can go sit down now.